So bring yourself to yourself. What we find and what is usually intended by these explorations is that we are exploring these like we would explore a science project or a piece of art. We are just exploring it. Someone said before, it's like I'm outsourcing my thinking to you. I'm outsourcing my philosophizing. And I thought that was a funny way of putting it. So what we're doing is just completely surrendering your doing to surrender it to life in this moment. Outsource your entire doing to life. If you need to scratch your head, life will hire one of your arms to scratch it for you. Nothing here needs to be done. Life will do it all. You need to breathe. Life will outsource it to your lungs. You need to cough. Life will outsource it to your throat. In day-to-day experience, what we typically find is a duality between what we are and what experience is. And because of this duality, this seeming separation, we could be perfectly comfortable in the oneness of our own eyes closed sitting position, but then find that the peace we find in the comfort of our meditation is lost. The quality is lost when we experience the world. And the reason for that is because we have created a model of reality that implies separation. So when we perceive a world, when we look at an object, when we have a conversation, there is duality. That's legitimate. What is illegitimate is to believe that duality implies separation. So because of our conditioning that tells us duality implies illusion or duality implies separation, we will then act and behave in accordance to that separation. This is why the peace seems to be lost and we leave the comfort of our cushion, so to speak. So what I want everybody to see right now is that there is an existingness that we, I want to say have, but it's also what we are. We undoubtedly exist in this moment. And what we find is that the world undoubtedly exists in this moment. The problem is when we find a distance or a separation between my existence and the existence of the world. What we need to see is that the world that exists doesn't exist independently on its own from that which is experiencing it. And what we find, if we were to go and touch the world that we experience, we'll use a sensation. We find that the minute we touch something, we find just a sensation. And if we were to describe the quality of a sensation, if we were to take a piece of that, we would find only a quality that is inherent in our mind. For example, the object you touch doesn't have a sensation. There's no sensation in an object. Sensation is a quality inherent in our mind. And what we do is we say the object has a sensation and I sense the sensation. So what we're doing here is recognizing objects don't have a sensation. So when we touch an object, and you can do that right now, I want to try and make this interactive. You can keep your eyes closed because the visual field is often the most dense and tricky field to go with. When we feel something, we think we're feeling an object, but all we actually experience is a sensation. And this is very important to distinguish because that implies that there is actually no object there outside of our experience. So what we're feeling when we touch an object is a internal, it's ultimately not internal, but this is a concession, an internal experience. Now, what I want you to do is to take a thought. Let's take the thought, the wave is waving in the ocean. And ask yourself the question, does that thought take place inside or outside you? Is it an outside experience, like if you've seen a bird? Or is it an inside experience? What you'll find is that it's an inside experience. The experience takes place inside us. The thought doesn't take place outside whatever it is that we are. Now, I want you to parallel to the experience of the thought, take the sensation that you are feeling of whatever it is that you're feeling, it doesn't matter what it is, and ask yourself, is that an internal or an external experience? If you remove the visual idea of the object and just experience the sensation, is that taking place in a different place to the experience of your thought? Is it taking place outside in the world, or is it taking place here in this space of awareness? What we find is that if it's a sensation can only take place inside us. There's no sensation outside. It's an internal experience. And then what we find is that that applies to every sensation we experience, everything we touch in the world, everything we hear in the world. Every time we hear a sound, sound is not in the object. No object has a sound. If I was to take a cue ball, dissect it, I would never find sound inside it. Sound is an experience purely within our mind. And that experience is a pure perception. That perception is pure awareness. Ask yourselves, could you take awareness away from the experience of a perception? A perception is the field of hearing, seeing, touching, tasting, or smelling. Well, if awareness wasn't inherent in those experiences, we wouldn't be touching, tasting, hearing, or smelling. So we cannot take awareness away from it. So what we find when we go far enough is that all experience takes place in the same place. We don't need to know where that place is. It doesn't matter. We just need to know and see clearly that all experience takes place. We could call it here. And when we say here, we mean it in the same likeness to the way we use the word now. When we say the word now, we don't mean now at 6 o'clock. We mean the now that is ever present. Well, likewise, the here is the infinite aspect of nowhereness. Not no awareness, but nowhere, where-ness. Just in the same way that the now is eternal timelessness, placelessness, here is eternal nowhereness. And that's where this experience takes place. So what we find is every single sense faculty that seems to experience a separate world is always only ever experiencing the inherent world of our being. And in that recognition, we find complete intimacy with our experience. Complete, we call it oneness, but or non-duality, no separation between what I am and what I experience, because what I experience is never separate from what I am. Doesn't take place outside me. And if there is no outside, there is no inside. So then if we were to take all of these experiences, sight, smell, touches, taste, what we find is there's just pure hearing, pure sensation. We never sense an object, we just experience sensation. We never hear an object, we just experience hearing. And implicit in those experiences is pure awareness. You cannot take away awareness from perception. Perception and awareness are one. Mind and awareness are one. There is no separation between awareness, experiences separately to itself a perception. The perception and awareness are a coherent, simultaneous experience. Because ultimately, the only thing we experience in the perception is awareness. So everything we touch is just made of being, made of awareness. It's just raw. If you just touch your table or leg, whatever it may be, and we're using table leg as an example to point to it, but the thing we touch is always awareness. So this is a simple way of, maybe not so simple in some regards, but this is a simple way of recognizing the intimacy of our experience and realizing that on an experiential level, there is no separation between what we are and what the world is. The world is what we are, and what we are is the world. Thank you.